The go-home show for AEW Revolution begins with the huge 10-man tag team match between the best friends Janela and Warhorse and Kip Sabian, Miro, Brian Cage, EC3 and Ricky Starks of Team Taz. And in a decent match, it's the best friends that pick up the win after 11 minutes 34. And it was Orange Cassidy, the TNT champion, that pinned Ricky Starks after a super kick. So a really good, strong start to Dynamite this week. I was expecting quite a low score for this one with it being a 10-man tag, but getting a 63 and also seeing that there, the match got the show off to a strong start. Really happy with that. And everyone involved putting in quite a decent performance, apart from Ricky Starks. Still young, still got quite a lot to learn, but everyone doing really well in that match. After the match, both Miro and Orange Cassidy stand facing each other. Miro psyching himself up, and Orange, well, it's Orange being Orange. He seems relaxed. Miro strikes first, but Orange dodges and keeps dodging Miro's attacks, frustrating the Bulgarian brute even more. Orange Cassidy slips out of the ring and rejoins Trent and Chuck, the best friends, Janela and Warhorse, on the rampway. Miro just wants to tear Cassidy apart, and Kit tries holding him back. Team Taz watch on with slight interest. These two though, Miro, Orange Cassidy, they are going to do battle at Revolution this Saturday. Got high hopes for that match. Should be interesting. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the final stop before Revolution this Saturday, live on pay-per-view. Tonight, Shinsuke Nakamura faces Brody King again as he looks to get his first win here in AEW. In doing so, he will get a shot to CM Punk this Saturday. Yeah, can't imagine Punk is too happy about that. Also tonight, the Young Bucks team up with SCU, who they face this Saturday in a ladder match to determine the #1 contender for the World Tag Team Championships. They'll take on Hybrid 2, and well, Hybrid 2 need to hurry up and find some partners. We also have the contract signing for the AEW World Championship match between Moxley and Page later tonight. Mox isn't happy after Page hit him with his buckshot lariat last week. I'm sure he'll want to get his hands on Page. And speaking of laying hands on one another, Toni Storm and Britt Baker can't do so, but Nyla Rose can, and she faces the Women's Champion tonight. Can Toni Storm overcome the native beast? Let's find out. So up next then, the AEW Women's Champion Toni Storm takes on the native beast Nyla Rose, a former Women's Champion. We've also got Sammy Guevara of the Inner Circle in action against Matt Sydal, who came up short last week against Darby Allin, and also that big 8-man tag, the Young Bucks and SCU teaming up to take on Hybrid 2, and who will their partners be? Then we've got the contract signing between Hangman Adam Page and Jon Moxley, and our main event this evening for the final show before Revolution, we got Shinsuke Nakamura against Brody King. In a bout that had decent reaction from the crowd, but subpar wrestling, Toni Storm, the AEW Women's Champion, defeats Nyla Rose in 8 minutes 31 following a botched interference from Britt Baker. This is not going to go down well with the native beast. It's a decent match overall, getting a 49. Toni Storm, the much better performer there, carrying it with a 58. And this match also did advance the storyline for the Women's Championship. Overall, not bad at all. As we have a look then at what happens after the match, Toni Storm celebrates with her Women's Championship as she goes into Revolution with another win under her belt and a big win against the native beast Nyla Rose, who is pissed at Dr. Britt Baker, who is pleading with Nyla. She can be heard saying sorry over and over. Nyla pretty much chases Britt up the rampway and to the back as Toni Storm is in the ring laughing and in good spirits, heading into her title defense against Britt Baker. And this is not good to see. Britt Baker's gimmick is starting to get stale. Oh dear. We're going to have to see if we can turn that around and make sure that isn't going to be the case. But in a way, if you look at it, you got to think, well, how much longer can a gimmick of being a dentist last for in pro wrestling? I'm not too sure. Well, anyway, up next, JR runs down the card for AEW Revolution this Saturday on pay-per-view. And look at that segment rating for JR, just for JR on his own, 73. Anyway then, our card for Revolution so far looks like this. Orange Cassidy will defend his TNT Championship against the Bulgarian Brute, Miro. What a match that should be. We've also got the #1 contendership ladder match between the Young Bucks and SCU. These two did battle quite a few weeks ago, which opened up Dynamite, and it's our best match so far, which scored an 85. Imagine what they could draw in with that ladder match. We've also got steel cage action as Lance Archer takes on the Hardys in a 2-on-1 handicap match. Back at Full Gear, it was FTR against the Young Bucks. The winners able to go on and face the World Tag Team Champions. Well, it was FTR, and they are here and ready now to take on the Lucha Brothers for the titles. Toni Storm heads into Revolution as she has taken AEW by storm. She defends her AEW Women's Championship against Dr. Britt Baker. And then it's the big one, the main event. The AEW World Championship are on the line. Who can beat Jon Moxley? Is Moxley's time up? We will find out as he takes on Hangman Adam Page. As Sammy Guevara makes his way to the ring for this match against Sydal, Chris Jericho, Santana and Ortiz make their way over to the commentary table. Jericho back on commentary, baby. Sammy G against Matt Sydal. You know, the one that thinks he has a third eye. Sammy G is going to beat him and then get his name in that World Title Eliminator tournament. You seem upbeat, Chris, after what happened last week with your town hall meeting. I can't help but notice, though, that you're without Jeff Cobb tonight. And Chris Jericho responds with, well, the less said about Cobb, the better. Not sure what's going on in his head, but we in the inner circle can make do without it. So, what are you saying, that Cobb is no longer inner circle? That's what I said, JR. Now can we focus on this match? Also sat in his private box is MJF, and he seems busy on the phone. Elsewhere, Darby Allin is sat in the rafters. So, the story here with Jeff Cobb, before I started booking this show and putting it all together, Jeff Cobb turned up wasted on drugs, and I have decided to suspend him. So he is gone, and well, he's gone from the inner circle, as we just heard from Chris Jericho. In a decent match, Sammy Guevara defeats Matt Sydal. That's 2 losses in 2 now for Matt Sydal. After 15-24 by pinfall with the 6:30 there from Sammy Guevara. Fantastic match. Again, just like the match against Darby Allin for Matt Sydal, I did set competitors to go all out and put on the best match that they could possibly do. After Sammy picks up the win, Chris Jericho says, "Come on, boys, let's go." Santana and Ortiz race to the ring. Guevara, Santana, Ortiz start to beat down Matt Sydal. Punches and kicks over and over. Jericho eventually catches up, climbs into the ring and calls for the inner circle to hold Sydal up, and then Judas effect. Boom! Sydal is laid out as the inner circle stand side by side in the ring with arms raised. So Jericho seems to think that just because Sammy Guevara has won this match, he's now in that World Title Eliminator tournament, that 8-man tournament, which will begin after Revolution. You guys will have to stay tuned to find out the brackets for that, as we got 69 for this segment, as the inner circle dwindling on numbers here. Anyway, Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, make their entrance, followed by SCU, Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian. Once all 4 are in the ring, they all exchange words ahead of Saturday. Then Hybrid 2's music hit, and out come Jack Evans and Angelico with their crazy dancing skills. They make their way to the ring, but Evans goes on to say, "Hey Bucks, SCU, I'm glad you showed up because I've been looking forward to this. See, me and Angelico, we've kept this one under wraps this past week. People constantly asking us, who's your tag team partners? Well, it's these guys. Motor City Machine Guns. Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin stand at the top of the entranceway, shake hands with Hybrid 2, then make their way to the ring. Both Nick and Matt are shocked. A lot of history between these two teams. We get 64 here, so I wouldn't usually do it by debuting a new team or a new superstar before a pay-per-view. It normally come after a pay-per-view. But I felt now was the right time to introduce Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, the Motor City Machine Guns, bolstering our tag team division yet again. Think of the matchups we could have now, and their debuts got an initial rating of great, which is really good to see. And in a decent match, SCU and the Young Bucks defeat the Hybrid 2 and the Motor City Machine Guns. It is Jack Evans that eats the pin again from Frankie Kazarian after a wave of the future. And Helico, unfortunately, was the weak link. Don't believe that. He'd be fantastic in this sort of match. We did get a 73, so really good rating for this 8-man tag. And having the Motor City Machine Guns here in AEW as well certainly did help. And look at their in-ring performance, 60 for Sabin, 56 for Alex Shelley. And what I like about those two, they're versatile because they can be singles performance as well. I mean, didn't Sabin have a long-term injury years ago, which meant that Shelley had to fight for himself, pretty much. Anyway, after the match, SCU exit the ring, pointing and saying to both Matt and Nick, "See you Saturday." When Nick and Matt turn around, they are confronted by Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. They stare at each other. The Motor City Machine Guns, they're here in AEW. They nod their heads with a smirk and leave. And we see Matt and Jeff Hardy backstage watching the monitor. Up next, footage is shown from last week after Dynamite went off the air of Kenny Omega and Pac brawling through the backstage. Both men relentless, trading fists and using various items backstage such as weapons, chairs, steel, roller, shutters, trash cans, you name it, it was involved. They keep fighting until they make it to the outside. Security managed to intervene, breaking both up. Omega shouts, "Let's finish this, Revolution!" Pac breaks free and goes for Kenny again. More security get involved this time, breaking them up successfully. Pac replies, "I'll rip your head off, Kenny." It has been since confirmed that both will face each other this Saturday at Revolution. We're getting 84 for this. The angle getting the crowd hotter, working our way towards that big main event between Nakamura and Brody King. We're also going to hear now from Pac and his death triangle. We transition to see Pac, Penta, Ray Phoenix stood together in a dark room, and as he goes on to say, "Last week was just a mere bump in the road for my brothers, your World Tag Team Champions. As I've always said, every champion has the potential to falter. It's how they get back up that matters. Penta, Ray, they don't let anything keep them down, as you'll see this Saturday against the Cowboys' Brokeback Mountain posse. Which brings me to you, Kenny. Last week you challenged me out on the streets. Are you sure that's wise? Every time you and I have fought, it's always been me that's walked away as the winner. Are you sure you want to go ahead with it on Saturday? Oh, hold on, I forgot. You're the cleaner now, aren't you?" Pac laughs menacingly with Penta and Ray. "I accept, Kenny. It'll be fun for me as I watch you free fall into your inevitable decline. See you Saturday." Death Triangle walk off as we get 71 for this promo from Pac and Penta and Ray Phoenix, who just stood in the background really. So for the first time in this TEW 2020 save, we're going to get Pac versus Omega at Revolution. Should be a good one. A table is set up in the ring ahead of the World Championship contract signing. Schiavone waits in the ring for both competitors to make their entrance, which they do. And Schiavone goes on to say, "Alright folks, it's time for the contract signing for the match between these two this Saturday at Revolution for the AEW Championship. Paige, Mox, if you please." Both men stare at one another with what happened last week fresh in their minds. Paige signs first. Mox hesitates and grabs Tony's mic. "What happened, her? What happened to your promise and all that bullshit? Kenny is right. You'll never be a champion. The only way you can is when someone carries you." Mox quickly signs the contract, looks up, slowly expecting Paige to attack, but he doesn't. Paige just holds out his hand for Mox to shake. Mox is weary of it, but does eventually. Paige just nods and leaves without another word. What a title match for AEW Revolution. So my thinking here, Page kind of feeling a bit bad that he went against his words and actually almost took Moxie's head off with the buckshot lariat. So he wants no more truck. He just wants to get on with this match. He wants to beat Mox, win the title for the first time, which he's been constantly denied of since, well, the beginning, the inception of AEW, when he lost to Jericho, and then he went on to that tag team picture with Kenny Omega, didn't he? And since then, well, not much has happened. This is his chance, so his all focus is Hangman Adam Page as we move into our main event of the evening. In a bout that had great heat and decent wrestling, Shinsuke Nakamura finally gets his first win in AEW as he defeats Brody King within 17 minutes 42 after a Samoan driver. Bit of an interesting finisher there from Shinsuke Nakamura, the match getting a 75. So with this win for Nakamura, you know what that means. At AEW Revolution, we're going to get Nakamura against CM Punk. So 2 huge matches added to the Revolution card for this Saturday in this episode of Dynamite. We've got Kenny Omega against Pac, and now Nakamura against CM Punk. After picking up his first win in AEW, Nakamura celebrates, but it gets cut short. CM Punk stands at the top of the entranceway. Nakamura turns around and does his "come on!" Punk sends Carl Anderson out as he slides into the ring. Nakamura hits it with his Kinshasa. Doc Gallows is out next as he slides into the ring also. He goes to clothesline Nakamura, but he evades. Nakamura ducking underneath. When Doc Gallows turns around, he receives a kick to the midsection, taking him to his knees. Another Kinshasa is delivered. Shinsuke Nakamura looks unstoppable. He summons Punk, but Punk is rooted to the spot at the top of the entranceway. CM Punk versus Nakamura this Saturday at Revolution. Don't miss it as this episode of AEW Dynamite comes to a close. So, bit of a poor segment rating there, but I think sets it up nicely now for what I'm hoping will be a huge pay-per-view with Revolution. The first pay-per-view of the new year. And we get a 75 for this episode of Dynamite. Big improvement on last week's. So really happy to see that. Let's go and see how well we've got on against NXT this week. Have we beaten their show quality? We'll have to wait and see. So last week was poor as we got a 69. This week, big improvement with a 75. We had 942 viewers tuning in on TNT, which again is a big jump from last week's, what was it, 840 something thousand viewing. So much better, as I'd hoped as well, with it being the go-home show. Let's see how we've done against NXT this week. Yep, business resumes. We've beaten NXT show rating by 3. They got a 72, and of course they beat us on total viewers, but that's okay as we turn our attention now to AEW Revolution. Do not miss it. Thanks for watching.